Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have global payments leader Stripe announcing its own blockchain called Tempo, backed by Paradigm, not an EVM chain. They're building their own. We'll discuss that in a bit. We'll talk Tom Lee's Bitmine becoming the first ETH holder to more than 1 million ETH, valued at almost $5 billion, and record ETH inflows to the ETH ETFs, $1 billion yesterday into the ETH ETFs. We'll discuss that as well. And we'll talk about a slew of treasury companies all getting spun up yesterday with big news coming out for IP and some other ones too. We'll get into that news shortly. So as usual, we've got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as well. We've got a discussion on all of the above. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Legendary and Rahim with me today. We're ready to get into it, but just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. Unfortunately, we do not know anything for sure, so please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Rahim, straight to you today. It's Tuesday, it's the 12th of August. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, everybody. I've had the craziest 72 hours I've had in the last couple of years, and maybe it gives everyone like a peek into the future. So, for like those of you who don't know, like I run Arts DAO, and we're kind of like pivoting the direction where we kind of liquidated our DAO. So this is what
So you
would
sold
happen
all the
when.
NFTs that you had in there.
Yes, so we had like two punks, an ape, and a bunch of like other
Oh,
things. So it was
what a
like a
great
good.
time to liquidate compared to before, right?
Yeah, didn't end up being as profitable as we would have liked it to be, but like having two punks in there was super perfect. But obviously we are changing direction. We are moving to a very much like a Soho house with the physical space we are building. But wow, it's been a crazy 72 hours. And I was just thinking, when I was like liquidating the treasury, I was like, how would Tom Lee feel like when he's liquidating his $5 billion ETH treasury? So it's been crazy, but man, like the amount of like support I've had like from community, from like the people showing up, and like it's been amazing. So super grateful, and yeah, excited to dive deep into the markets because I've not kept up until this morning what was happening for the last 3 days.
It's pretty awesome, man. Like we've said, like the opportunity in the space is endless. Of course, there's an opportunity in the markets, but I'm incredibly bullish on people who are like trying to build stuff in the space for the people in the industry, building crypto equity. I speak a lot about crypto equity and how I think it's going to be super, super valuable. Because as everything else is inflating away, your equity is going to inflate with it. And if it's crypto equity specifically, because of how all the regulations are changing, you're just going to put yourself in a nice position to build something incredibly valuable for the future. So love to hear that, man. Sounds like you're well on the way. I think, in case people don't know, you managed to find your physical space the other day, right? So you've got a physical space. When do you think you're going to have like turned that physical space into what you want it to be?
So ideally, it should be on right now. On the schedule is for it to be running mid of November. So if you're
Okay.
coming to Dubai, Abu Dhabi for Bitcoin Mina, Solana Breakpoint, Binance Blockchain Week, hopefully you get a shot to pass by.
Amazing. We'll have to do that for sure. And good luck with it. I guess you're going to be a bit of an interior designer for the next for the next few months, right? That'll be fun. Ledge, what about you? How's things going? What's going on? How are things your side?
GM Jim doing quite well, but I don't buy a part of Rahim's story. He's like, I'm not caught up with the market. I don't know what's going on. I can tell you what's actually happening. So a couple of weeks ago, Rahim asked us on the show, what is our end of year price prediction for ETH? And I think I was trying to, the diplomat that I am, navigate around it, giving a concrete answer to the question. And you said it's going to be, I probably said like something, maybe 3.8K could go higher before, but maybe it will cool off. And you said 4K, and obviously ETH has smashed to 4K through 4K to 4.3K, which Rahim is very well aware of. So I think he has one-liners ready. He's fully prepared to roast us on the show once we get to the ETH topic, and he's very much in touch with the market. And I'm ready to be roasted on the show, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you missed ETH going to 4K, Rahim, no matter how busy you've been, right?
I mean, like Tom Lee is saying he wants to take it to 500K. I'm not even that crazy. Like you guys think like 4K was crazy. Like 6, 7, 8, 10K is not that crazy. Dude thinks it's going to 500.
Yeah, he's raised the bar for sure. So look forward to that conversation in just a little bit, because we are going to be dedicating a bunch of time to ETH and Tom Lee, who I think is kind of separating himself from Joe Lubin a little bit at SharpLink, both very significant individuals who people like to get behind. But if you just look at the pure ETH numbers, Bitmine, which is Tom Lee's vehicle for accumulating ETH, is way ahead now. Although there was also like bullish news coming out of SBET as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. So we'll get to the headlines in just a moment and all that discussion. Looking forward to get there. But we are, before we get there, excited to announce today that we are sponsored by Yeet, the crypto casino that has already done almost $400 million of volume in 3 months, founded by trusted names like Mando, KBM, and pro poker player Ben Lam. Obviously, Mando came on the show last month to talk about everything they're doing, where users of the site, and Legendary is famously known as Limbo GCR over there from his very unconventional and unpredictable wins, relentless winning. So this felt like a very natural partnership for us. A reminder to only gamble for fun and what you're comfortable with. And to help there, we're giving out $500 each week. We mentioned this yesterday. We're giving out $500 each week randomly to players active under the Modern Market affiliate link, which is in the comments. Legendary is going to put that there now. So do check Yeet out. They have a number of crypto-themed games and a sportsbook coming soon. And stay tuned for our first giveaway at the end of today's show. We did tell you to sign up. We did tell you to participate. Not many people did. So you've got insane odds if you did in the last 24 hours because we've already picked a winner. So we'll let you know at the end of today's show. Stay tuned. So before we get there, let's get into the price action as usual, starting with the majors. Then we'll get into the meme coin side of things as always. So Bitcoin is down a couple of percent to 118K. ETH is actually pretty much flat, up a percent to 4.2, almost 4.3. Okay, XRP is down a few percent to $3.13. BNB is flat at $800. Solana is down a few percent to 174. I'm just refreshing to make sure those are all updated because it seems a bit, it seems a bit of an odd one today. Bitcoin's down a couple, ETH is up 1, XRP is down 4, Solana's down 4. Oftentimes these things track each other, but it seems like a bit of divergence today. Hyperliquid is down 7 to 42.40. So that's a bit of a bigger move down. Sui is down 4% as well. In general, it's a red day. I think it needed to correct a little bit. Some on the meme coin side of things, Doge is down 5%, Pepe is down 6, Pengu's down 11, Bonk is down 11, SPX is down 7. WIF is down 8. Big mover, maybe surprising to people given how beloved it was for a long period of time. Fartcoin is down 16, back to 850 mil. So that's like a really big move down there. And also, I guess when you're comparing it with the other moves, right? Like much bigger than the other ones. Of course, it's a red day, but this one has moved much more than the others. So that's interesting to note. Rect is down 5%, MOG is down 5%. So in general, correction across the board there. Just a quick touch point there while we're on it. Boys, any of you still holding Fartcoin positions? Any thought as to why that would move so much lower compared to everything else?
I sold all of my Fartcoin. Good,
but not like yesterday, right? Just before you.
Longer time ago. I'm like,
okay.
I'm so happy to chill in ETH, BTC, Hype as well. Have my old bets on other things. Have my eyes on stuff like Rect. That my thinking was the timeline was way less active in chatting about Fartcoin. It got less mind share, so I was like, maybe this is a good time to sell after it did recover beautifully to what was it, 1.4, 1.5. And then it started to trend down. It's done 33% the last month, and on this downtrend like 3.5 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago I did sell because I was like, it's just not the most interesting bet for me anymore.
Yeah, fair. I have noticed this thing sometimes where when the market is weaker in general, and you have one thing that captures everyone's attention, it performs really well. And then when the market kind of catches up and starts performing better, the thing that was super strong in weakness kind of gets forgotten about sometimes. I think that's, I'm not saying it's over for it, but I think that's kind of happened a little bit here, right? Like everything else is really caught up. There's a bunch of alts that have got a lot of attention. There's like even the majors just holding ETH the last 2 weeks would have been a better hold than basically anything as well. So it's tough to justify holding something that has done so well. And realistically, the thing that I think about is what's the proportion of holders who are up? And if it's not low enough, i.e., if too many people are sitting on significant profits and then suddenly attention goes elsewhere, you're just gonna see a wave of profit taking, right? Because everyone's up, everyone needs to sell. Whereas if they're just bought in, they're like holding for higher. Whereas the cost basis is so low that it kind of needs to get reset in a way. Rahim, does that make any sense to you? How are you viewing that specific asset and its performance in relation to everything else?
No, I think you're spot on. There's something that we've talked about on the show a lot. There was a point where I did not hold ETH, but one of my biggest position used to be in Pepe, and we've talked
I
about this.
remember. Yeah,
That
yeah,
every
yeah.
time ETH would go up, Pepe would just do like a 2x move. So it made no
Yes.
sense, at least for that time period, for you to hold ETH over Pepe. That hasn't been the case for a very long time. Like I was charting this like 2-3 days ago, and like Pepe has performed stupidly bad if you compare that to ETH. And this is the first time I'm seeing that in like since 24. And
Okay.
it's just like I just think at this point it's like very simple. It's just like follow where the institution money is. That's the only thing that's
Follow the
pumping and stuff.
flows.
Yeah, that's why you see like even Pengu is down like 11% like in the last like 24 hours. So I just think like, and Fartcoin, uh, the funding rates have been like insane on hyperliquid. So my thesis is, and I'm basing this off of like no data, so take it with a pinch of salt, because a lot of altcoins volume is not coming from exchanges. I just feel like the amount of like leverage traders that are there on Fartcoin is just like insane. Like this isn't the first time. Like we've had, I think like last week there was a day where it had like a 20% down wake, and then again yesterday we had like a good 20% down wake. And for it to happen like so often, that sure there is like some sort of like probably some sketchy stuff going on, which we can all speculate, but none of us really know. But the funding rates for it has been crazy. So I just feel like the people who are trading Fartcoin is a very interesting class of DeFi people, not even DeFi people, but like big traders who think like Fartcoin is like the meme coin of the cycle. Let's leverage trade it on this thing. You don't see the trench folks talking about Fartcoin. You don't
Sure.
see obviously the exchange folks talking about. So I don't know. I'm basing this off of just like reading tweets and stuff, but it's just been like a very volatile meme, like absolutely insane. Ledge is right. It reached up to 1.7 bill like 3 weeks ago, and it's sitting at like less than one today. So it's just insane.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And so just a follow-up question there, because I think this would be helpful for people. When you notice something like that, because to be clear, you're probably one of the best culture coin traders, leverage traders I know, to be honest. What do you do then? Something that you had thought to be true, i.e. Pepe outperforming ETH at all times, therefore it is better to hold Pepe. When you realize that that is like invalidated now, and that is not always, the thing that you believe to be true is not true anymore. How do you respond? Have you changed? Are you waiting to see a little bit more? Do you think it'll come back? What's your perspective?
I mean, I ended up buying a lot more ETH back after like 2 years, like a couple of weeks ago, months ago. I bought like a lot of ETH. I'm just like, my thesis for the cycle is so simple. And I wholeheartedly believe that if a lot of people just follow that, your investing strategy would be like so much more simpler. Forget CT, just look at where the money is flowing. Look, just take a moment and see, look at the price action for XRP, look at like XLM. We talked about it like a couple of weeks ago. Just like follow institution money. These people, just because there are people sitting in suits and ties who are not GMing on the timeline or like trolling people, shit posting, doesn't mean they're not part of crypto. Like I'll say this over and over again, and I feel this all the time living in Dubai, that CT is a very small aspect of crypto. It works for early stage stuff like like virtuals protocol or some of this like early degen stuff. But like if you're looking at real capital, like that's like ETH added $100 billion to its like market cap. That's a lot of volume. So yeah, stop looking out of CT, go read like articles, go read like, you know, like the Blocks website, look into like some zoomed out podcasts. Stop living in this like echo chamber, because there's a lot more to crypto than CT.
Do listen to our show though. That is one thing that you can continue. You can continue to do that. Rahim just forgot to mention that is essential listening. I agree with you. I agree. I very much agree with you. I think Funky might also. Funky, welcome to the stage, my man. What's your take here on kind of following the flows versus, just observing ETH strength against the rest of the market?
I was surprised to learn that Rahim actually disposed of his Pepe. That was really interesting to learn, because I just thought he was sort of a maxi in that regard as the leverage ETH play, which he's talked about many times. I've been thinking a lot about my friend Harrison, who lives in Miami, because I had dinner with him at the end of May, and he had told me during that dinner, he said 3 weeks ago, and this shocked me. He said, I sold all my Bitcoin. And I said, what? And he's been in this space for a long time. He said, I put it all into ETH because I feel like ETH is the easy 3 or 4x from here. Bitcoin was approaching 100 grand at the beginning of May, and ETH was still like 1,800 bucks. Well played, sir. Well played.
Well played indeed. Absolute cardinal sin there for you, Funky, to sell the Bitcoin, but well played. Okay, let's get into the main headlines. We're going to talk about those and get you up to with the Web3 Roundup, and then we'll get into a bit more of a discussion as usual. And of course, we mentioned at the top of the show, today we're doing our first Yeet giveaway to the people who signed up from our ref link, which is in the Twitter comments. It will also be in the YouTube comments, the Spotify description, and YouTube description when that's up as well. We'll be doing our first giveaway at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. Headlines today: global payments leader Stripe announces its own blockchain. Can't wait to discuss that. That's big news. Called Tempo. It's backed by Paradigm, and it's not on ETH. They're building their own. We will discuss. Tom Lee's Bitmine becomes first ETH holder to more than 1 million ETH, valued at almost $5 billion. And the ETH ETFs had $1 billion of inflows yesterday, eclipsing Bitcoin's inflows. So, you know, if you weren't taking notes already, it's probably too late to take note, frankly, but there you go. That's the headline either way. Some notable price action, as I said, corrections across the board. Fartcoin down 17% to 84 cents. Zora down 14%, back down to 1.1 bill, although that's still on a huge tear up from over the last week or so. Pengu down 11% as well. Ledge, anything we need to know on the NFT side? If things cooled down? I've noticed some things are still really moving there.
Yeah, bit of a mixed day for NFTs. Mostly cooled down. We have Pudgy's being down 3.5% to a 14.65 ETH floor. Azuki's down 6%, 2.2 ETH floor. Bored Apes basically flat, 13.4 ETH floor. And the runner of the day, who's absolutely not cooling down, are the Moonbirds. They are up another 20% on the day to a 2.85 ETH floor. And that is on the announcement that they will have their own Kato leaderboard. And it is, in essence, the first NFT collection to have their own leaderboard there. I mean, I know that Pengu has one, but this is like specifically for the Moonbirds for the NFT collection. And the market did like the news and sent the Moonbirds to almost 3 ETH. They are. Actually, they flipped Miletis. Miletis are down 2%, 2.78 ETH, so they have flipped them.
Well, that's good. I picked up a Moonbird not so long ago. So that's good from that perspective. And I think it's interesting from the Kaito thing's kind of interesting. The thing, I mean, the obvious read on basically any project that has a Kaito board is that there's going to be a proportion of a token supply that goes to them, right? And I don't know if that's like publicly confirmed yet, but you know, I think you can put 2 and 2 together there on why. In fact, I think there are investors who are saying it's got a token coming. I'm pretty sure. Let me check that for you now, because I think everyone, you know, that's why you come here to get this kind of information for us. I don't want to throw that out there without being a bit more specific. I'm almost certain I saw some investor. Oh, here we go. Mike Dudas, famously, who just crushed it on the Pump Fund investment, had this to tweet. I will share it on screen. In fact, Ledge, can I just share it to you and I'll read it out and you can bring it up? he had this to say. He said, Moonbirds are, and I guess this is the thesis at the moment. Bear in mind, I own a Moonbird and I invested in Orange Cap Games in Spencer before he'd even bought the Moonbirds. So maybe I'm biased. In fact, I'm probably am biased. So just bear that in mind. But this is being shared by Mike, who's a much more significant investor than me. Moonbirds are the pudgy penguins of this cycle. Pudgy will continue to grow. They're at the next leg of their growth cycle. The Moonbirds thesis is dead simple. CTO, strong leader, same investors, great IP, fervent community, real world products, token soon. You are not late. So, you know, it has been articulated by other people that that is going to be on the horizon. And I think that's, you know, strong. I think if you had to put the Moonbirds thesis into one sentence, that is it. That's very much hit it completely on its head. That is the thesis if you believe it. So interesting there. Rahim, I know you like the animal JPEGs. What's your kind of take on Moonbirds? Have you thought about it, considered it? I know you love pudgy penguins, and frankly, you've always showed a lot of love to like all the community. You've been like a big NFT IP supporter. Thoughts on Moonbirds?
Yeah, Loki, been wanting to buy one. Don't own. Now that I know you own one, I'm like, shit, I should be owning one as well. So I definitely think it's something I've been like looking at for a while. There's also like, there are some pieces of the puzzle that I'm interested to see how they pan out. One of the things that I don't think the timeline talks enough about with the Moonbirds thing, during the acquisition, there was some form of agreement between Moonbirds and Yuga Labs for them to do something on ApeChain. We don't know what that is yet. Not saying that the token is launching on ApeChain. I doubt that would be the case. But I just think it's interesting because I still feel like they have like a lot on the digital side, like on whether it's on the gamification, whether it's on a TCG thing, whether it's them being integrated into the other side. But I'm interested to see that. But yeah, like I love what Spencer is doing. I've talked about this a lot. My biggest thesis for NFTs has been Pokemon cards, and knowing how much like Spencer is into collecting cards and understanding how collectibles work in that world, I'm like super stoked. So it is something on my radar. So I might just pick up one very soon.
I like that you mentioned that last two things. One, before we get into the rest of the roundup, I like what was the first thing? Okay, the Yuga Labs thing, I agree. That's actually interesting. I'd forgotten about that. I don't know what the significance of that is, but that is something to keep an eye on. Second thing I really liked that you mentioned, because this is what I think most people on crypto Twitter, and maybe even in general, ignore because they're so focused on speculation and tokens and prices going up and down. If you haven't, one of the first questions I asked Spencer when I invested in Orange Cap Games before Moonbirds, before anything else, like even at that time, I was trying to figure out, is this a valuable business? Forget the token that's going to come, or forget like anything else that's associated or any type of speculative value. Is this a business? Because the pitch then was this the IP with cards, right? Like, are you going to be able to do that? And I was super interested in that. And remember, Rahim, I think you came with me to the event in Singapore, right? We went to the Orange Cap Games event in Singapore. We looked around and we were like, man, this is real. Like, this is really, really real. They've built a really strong community of people who like this IP. Well, obviously Pudgy Penguins had a lot to do with that because it's using Pudgy IP, but they built it with the Pudgy IP, but they've made it work. Like, they've got all these players who want to play the game. There's like these really passionate card collectors who are getting involved. So it was very real to me. That made it very real to me. I saw the imagination there. I liked the idea. And the execution has been excellent. And I feel like a lot of people don't know how well that side of things has gone because they want to know about the price of the NFT. They want to know about the prices of things going up and down. But watch more closely what Orange Cap have done on that TCG card side, because they haven't just put a card out. They've created a community of players creating tournaments around the world, people playing. Very, very good. Very, very good. And I'd urge people to, like Rahim, just, you know, pay attention to that stuff as well.
Just a question for you beyond that, because you're obviously an investor in Orange Cap. What was the timeline on that for people who don't know? You've been to the event in Singapore, saw the card game and invested after that, because that had, or have you invested previously? Like, just explain it for people who are not aware of the whole timeline on that. So
yeah,
you went much earlier, right?
It's a good question. Yeah. So I'd invested much before Singapore. I'm pretty sure we I was in like what's it called? Like, I guess it's technically like a pre-seed. So I was in a pre-seed. The stuff didn't exist when I invested. It was like an idea, a pitch. This is like what our intention is. Maybe they'd mocked up some things. Maybe they'd started building just about, but it was pretty early, and it was based on the idea, more or less. So obviously then you go and see these things getting built out at the events, you kind of checking in on your investment in some ways, and just like seeing how people are getting on, and you just see the excellent execution. And yeah, I've obviously kept a bit of a closer eye on it for that reason. But
I
been
remember I remember you and I, we were at that event and we saw a line and we were like, why is everyone standing at that line? Should we be standing at that line? And it was the Pudgy Penguin, a TCG artist who was signing cards.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, yeah. And we were like, yeah, I think we should get this done and stuff. And we both got our card signed and I have it in like a case and everything. I put it in a slab. So need to get that graded someday.
Amazing. Yeah, we do. Absolutely. That was fun. So yeah, I think then the trajectory went, you started to see them building out, and then the most recent raise was when I guess some bigger players came in, because I think the initial pre-seed was just kind of angels, and then the second one was with Yuga Labs and OKX, I think, who were involved. OKX were involved in the Pudgy raise as well, I think. But anyway, thought that'd be some helpful additional context there since we went in that direction. Let's get into the rest of the roundup to get up to speed with everything else that we are looking at. Let me find what I need to find to get you the rest of the roundup, and then we're going to get into the headlines. Right, so there's just back-to-back treasury strategies launch. We had Alt5 Sigma announcing a $1.5 billion raise to launch a World Liberty-Fi treasury strategy, the token of the Trump's family DeFi project. You also had Cask announcing a $360 million raise with A16Z backing for a treasury company for IP, the native token for Story Protocol's blockchain. You also had Safety Shot announcing a strategic alliance with Bonk founding contributors to receive $25 million in Bonk tokens as part of a treasury strategy. So back to back treasury madness. Not madness necessarily. That's just what's going on. Plasma announced partnership with Pendle to make yield accessible to everyone everywhere. I don't know if you guys saw as well the other day that Plasma announced a partnership with Aave. They seem to be my observation on Plasma at the moment, and again, I think we have quite significant exposure in Plasma. We spotted that one early. They're being way more intentional. It's just like, no, we're going to pick Pendle, we're going to pick Aave. That's it. I don't know. I know they're working with some other people, but they're just picking the best of the best to work with. Maybe that'll be relevant to your section in a bit, Ledger, when you're going to talk about Stripe, which is obviously a payments network coming on chain with their own blockchain. Sharplink Gaming announced another 102,000 ETH acquisition and a raise of $900 million to buy more ETH. So more flows coming to ETH. It looks that way. Metaplanet buys another 518 Bitcoin for 61 million. Moonbirds announced partnership with Kaito to reward yappers. Legendary mentioned that already. And then finally, Hype Engine announces a Hype accumulation machine, which is the first autonomous treasury primitive. To be honest, needs to do a little bit more reading on that one. It's called Hype Engine if you want to dive into it more, trying to emulate the treasury buying mechanism, but a bit more autonomously and without the kind of structures that are being created elsewhere. So that's the roundup. All kinds of stuff going on. Before we get into the main stuff, Legendary, anything you want to pick up on before we get into the main meat?
Probably the Plasma stuff, because I think, as you said, it's very intentional and the strategy makes a ton of sense. Ultimately, they want to attract as much stablecoin capital as they can. They want to attract as much institutional stablecoin transaction flow there. So it only makes sense for them to have Aave, to have Pendle, to have the top tier DeFi platforms ready from the get-go, so that you can highlight the yield earning capability and capacity of Tether, of stablecoins versus dollars in traditional finance. If you think about something like Hyper EVM, yes, I am very happy to earn my 8 to 15% yield on USDT, depending on how much is fluctuating on use Felix. But obviously, and I like use Felix as a protocol, so that's not me, throwing shade at them. Way more novel protocol exists on HyperVM. They don't have billions in TVL. They don't have 7 other chains to point at. We're like, look, we did this. We are like one of the most trusted things. Pendle exists on multiple chains. Aave has obviously one of the longest histories in DeFi protocols in the entire Ethereum ecosystem. So having that amount of trust and being able to point to the protocols who have billions of TVL is probably a way easier selling proposition than just launching with the new names, with the use Felixes and stuff that excites us as degens, as opposed to a more traditionally backed type of money that is entering via plasma. So 100% understandable that this is how they are strategizing and how they're moving with the partnerships. And on that note, by the way, sorry, completely unrelated to the Web3 roundup, but just one sentence or two, because I mentioned Aave and we mentioned URC, the Euro stable coin by Circle,
Okay.
where I said yield on that thing is absolutely horrible. That is not true anymore. Like Stani from Aave has been pushing that a lot and has been talking about that a lot. And currently you can earn 4% on your euro on Aave by lending that, which is actually pretty damn good, which I like a lot. And maybe some others have euro stable coins as well and have been looking for what to do with them, because I said it earlier this year when I stabled up, the yield was what, 0.2, 0.3%, like fuck it, not worth my time. But now it's a very decent yield on euro on Aave. Just wanted to shout that one out as well.
And is that just purely native or is it being juiced?
It's purely native.
Okay. I guess all of this is indicative in some way as we move into a more risk-on environment, yields will go up. So actually watching yield and interest is a pretty good indicator of kind of where you are in the market. The more expensive it is to borrow, the more people are out there degenning, like trying to make more money than they can just by lending their dollars in a pretty chill way. One final thing on Aave, and then I'll come to you, Rahim, just for some general takes here, is look at this chart. I've been thinking about Aave a lot recently because I do think it's a bit better that like we're in an environment now where there are protocols that really make money and do proper things. I don't know if that's been the case before. It was always wild speculation, like Pump, whether you like it or not, is just printing money and buying back their token. Hype, I don't think you can dislike it unless you're losing money on perps, but is printing money and buying back its token. Aave does have a buyback mechanism. It's one of the most trusted lending protocols on Ethereum mainnet and elsewhere. But look at the TVL growth. So like I'm trying to change this. So on the 1st of July, 2025, it was at 25 bill, the TVL on Aave. At 1 month later, 1.5 months later, in the middle of August, it's at 38. Like that's an incredible.
This is insane. Solana's market cap is at 94 bill. Like that's almost half of Solana's market cap in the biggest, albeit the biggest DeFi protocol on ETH, but that is insane in terms of TVL.
Yeah, it's just an absolute liquidity black hole for people. Like I think that's part of its vision, right? To just attract all of the capital. It's the closest thing to a risk-free rate on Ethereum. And so, yeah, I mean, incredibly bullish now seeing those numbers. And I guess this is also kind of an indicator of where we are in the market, where like people are wanting to almost bank here, which is interesting. Rahim, any thoughts on this in particular, whether it's the DeFi side or anything else you wanted to bring up before we get into the main headlines?
Because I know we'll be talking about like some of the treasury stuff later on. I think the Zora thing is super interesting to me. I think we spoke about it like a couple of weeks ago. Personally, I've been eyeing it a lot for a couple of reasons. I think after like a good year or so, I think I've seen like the most closest to product market fit when it actually comes to doing something with content for normies. Like I just think the way the whole ecosystem is, the way base's direction is going, the concept is really interesting to me. I remember mentioning it a couple of weeks ago. It's important to remember that they have so they have like some interesting investors. They had Mr. Beast, who was an early stage investor in Zora. They have their first round of investor unlocks, I believe, in October, which is where, like, you know, I think like a lot of the price is pumping. Obviously, we had the massive keynote between Jesse and like both of them together. But yeah, I think it's like super interesting to me. In the last couple of days, there were like some new creator stuff that like popped up over there. It still has like a very arbitrary group of people in that ecosystem. You have Balaji, you have Jack Butcher, you have
Such
like
an
some
eclectic mix of like
dude, and then
random
there are like
people.
some adult platforms and stuff. So it's just like a very funny mix, but it's something that, like, you know, it's good to keep an eye on. Like, if you firmly believe that there is a point where normies will come, I think it's a good sell for you to be able to like sell your content instantly. Like, I've met a couple of people. I met like a girl in Dubai. She's creating base content. She's doing really well. Jesse bought her like token and stuff on that platform, and she's been doing nice content. So yeah, Zora is definitely very interesting to me because I think a lot of people sleep on base. So definitely something to keep an eye out on.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm open to that. It's kind of on my list to at least download the app and just see what's going on. I know Bongo. Shout out to Bongo, who I'm not sure if he's listening today, but he said he'll get me onboarded in the Telegram. I'll figure out what I need to do there. And also, excellent shout out to say when the unlocks are. If the unlocks are October, you obviously want to keep that in mind if you're holding Zora token. Funky, your hand is raised. Tie this topic up for us before we hit the headlines.
I know we just pivoted to Zora, but I wanted to mention something very important about Aave because of the conversation you guys were having, and that is those tokens. And I don't know if people realize it, there's very little inflation left. It's like 15.5 million Aave tokens, and there's only 16 million. So the supply is almost all circulating, which I think is noteworthy, because I can see a world in which the TradFi bags are going to want to come for those tokens, right? Especially the legacy DeFi protocols that have enshrined what ETH is really all about. I mean, you know, those of you who have been around long enough, this is certainly the case for Legendary, certainly for me. DeFi summer 2020 was an absolutely insane time. Probably the only other thing I could think of was the high point of the NFT run coming out of the summer lull in 21. But DeFi summer, you know, it was originally called ETHLend, Aave, and it is really just, to your point, a liquidity black hole. They continue to just open up these outposts like on any EVM chain that's available. So it's beyond even ETH mainnet. It continues to accumulate mind share and everything else. So it's a really great token to pay attention to, I think, because I could see a world in which some sort of DeFi fund gets started, and that would be the lead token in an ETF that just relates to DeFi protocols.
I like it. Yeah, I can see that. Some type of ETF focusing on DeFi, the most profitable DeFi only. Yeah, I like that idea. Thanks for that contribution, Funk. Let's get into the headlines now. We've got 15-ish minutes left of the show, and we want to do our first Yeet giveaway, which we'll be doing at the end of the show. We've got some free spins. We don't know how much we'll be giving away precisely because it depends on if the winner wins or not. Legendary will be hopefully displaying his legendary luck for him. He's on the button clicking today. But before we get there, first headline, Ledge, and your more serious responsibility for today is to tell us what we need to know on global payments leader Stripe announcing its own blockchain.
Absolutely. Fintech giant Stripe is building its own blockchain. It's an L1. It's called Tempo. It's not an Ethereum L2, much to the annoyance of some parts of CT. It is a high-performance payments-focused blockchain that comes via a job ad, which was posted for product marketing position. That posting also went on to say that Tempo is installed, has a team of 5, is being built in partnership with Paradigm. That job post got deleted. Paradigm didn't comment on that. Stripe didn't comment on that. And I feel like before I go into any of the commentary around that, I just want to highlight how big Stripe is, like how much they're processing in terms of TPV, total payment volume, because it's an insanely large number. It's $1.4 trillion that they did last year. That is, to put in perspective, 1.3% of global GDP. Half of the Fortune 100 companies use it. 80% of the Forbes Cloud 100 use it, and so on and so forth. So it's absolutely massive. It is an insanely large payment processor. So that in itself, that they are devoting resources to build their own blockchain, no matter if it's an L1 or L2, in my mind, speaks a lot about how far we've come with crypto adoption. Now, there's been a couple of takes on the timeline on that, and I want to go through some of them. The first of which, from Victor Boonin, being a bit more critical on that, saying that he's very confused by this choice to build an L1 and not an L2 on ETH. Feels like Libra all over again. Largest enterprises, banks, fintechs, so many others are already building on ETH. So you still can have your own chain with whatever rules you want, except it's orders of magnitude easier and cheaper to operate as an L2 than an L1. So he wouldn't have understood the decision if it were 2019 to do it as an L1, but in 2025, it should have been an L2 because the interoperability with the rest of the Ethereum ecosystem, because of the scalability. So that was the bit more critical take on that. Some other takes that I want to highlight. One from Dith, good friend of the show. Anyone who's surprised about Stripe building the blockchain has no idea about Stripe. Zygar, in a similar line of thought, saying, I don't see why everyone's outraged over Stripe launching their own L1. They do have $1 trillion of volume, as I just said. They're not indebted to any existing crypto player. Only time will tell if it was the right decision. I tend to agree with that thinking. Yes, I would understand the excitement and the appeal for us if it were an Ethereum L2. But given the size that Stripe has, given the fact that they process $1.4 trillion in total payment volume, like, why not try building your own L1? Why not try building your own blockchain? And later you can still make that thing interoperable with ETH if you want to. But I absolutely think it makes sense that at this level of size, you go for your own L1. Ultimately, put that in perspective, even with the market cap of ETH, that's at 516 bill, and no, total payment volume is not market cap, and it's not the perfectly accurate metric to compare, but still they process more in payment volume than the total market cap of ETH is, and I know that ETH also processes a shit ton of payment and transaction volume, which probably would be the more fair comparison. For sure, would be the more fair comparison, but I think it still helps to understand the size of Stripe, not the Stripe of size, and also to understand why they are going for an L1 first.
Yeah, I tend to, I think exactly the same. To be honest, I think it's very, very common in our industry to like want to, or it's very easy to criticize, and it's very common to want to criticize. But I just think the scale here is a different beast. They're a completely different beast. Why give up any network value to anyone else? Why be reliant on anyone else? Like, if you were in that position at that size, like, you just wouldn't, like, you want to be in control. You want to be in control. And I actually think I had some interesting takes, putting Stripe aside. I think there'll be other very, very significant players, whether it's in payments or otherwise, being like, no, we are the big entity. Like, we want to control the thing. And who knows, maybe other people are right in saying that the thing that they should do is be more open and build in these more permissionless chains. But I don't think that they will. Whether that's going to be a hard lesson, and then they're going to learn, oh no, we should have done that, and we're going to have to go back on it in the future. Maybe they'll have to learn that hard lesson, because if you think about it from a psychological perspective, when you're in that position of strength, you just think, why would I? Why not hold the keys to the castle myself? Why not keep the power for myself? Why not? You don't want to leak value to anyone else. You don't need to. So that's my thought there. Funky, I know your hand is raised on this one, but we're running out of time today. We still got a couple more to get to, so maybe hopefully can circle back to you on another thing for the moment. Rahim, just coming to you on that if you've got a take. Otherwise, maybe we should go straight into ETH and your victory lap on why it's so expensive to buy one of these things now.
Let's go to ETH, because I know we have a bunch of stuff to cover. So yeah, I mean, like, we briefly touched on this on the Tommy Lee situation. So just to catch up everyone, who Tommy Lee is, he's basically a known Wall Street strategist. He joined, he came from like Frontstart Group Global Advisors, so they kind of deal in private equities, Bitcoin and like other treasury ecosystems. He came in as the chairman for Bitmine Immersion Technologies. It's interesting to see that the day he came, within the week, they ended up buying Ethereum for their treasury. It's important to note that their business model, their core business model of the company, was to provide infrastructure for Bitcoin. So they were focused mostly on Bitcoin. And the week one, Tommy Lee comes. He comes and he changes the light bulbs, which is like making a statement that, you know what, we are going to be buying ETH. He obviously talks about that it's ETH's ability for you to like generate yield on it is a very hyper profitable trade. So that's something that they've been focusing a lot on. And if you look at the strategic reserves, so one of the coolest things that I don't think the timeline talks enough about, you remember a couple of months ago, every time ETH would go up and we'd see the Ethereum Foundation dumping, and everyone would just like start shitting on them for being like, you know, they keep on dumping on us. Now you have 3 companies that are actually holding more ETH than the Ethereum Foundation. So you have, of course, Bitmine Immersion Tech, you have Sharplink Gaming, and the Ether Machine. So they had like an influx of, I believe, 1.2. They own about $1.2 million, 1.2 million ETH. So that amounts to $6.6 billion worth of ETH. So it's interesting to see what they are kind of doing in this space. If you look at the stock price, very interesting. I think the last 24 hours have been very interesting for both these companies, because Bitminer stock is up 14% at close yesterday. However, Sharplink Gaming is down, I believe, 5 to 6%. So I think what's interesting is, like, of course, on the Bitcoin side, you have MicroStrategy, which is like the one big company, and the disparity between all the other Bitcoin companies is far lesser. The Ethereum one, we are still figuring that out. Like the difference between number 1 and number 2 is significant, but it's not that significant. In some ways, I was just thinking about it. It kind of like diverts people's attention where, you know, if you are trying to make bets, you're like, should I buy SBET? Should I buy that? So I think in some ways, I would assume if these both companies were like, you know, buying that ETH together, that ETH would have, like, you know, that trade would have been way better. So I'm just like interested to see. It's kind of hard to gauge that, oh, like if you were to be buying either of the stock, what do you buy? Like, do you think Sharplink Gaming is going to be that? Or you look at Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee is like, he's bull talking ETH like never before. It's funny because if you read the news articles, when he came in as chairman, his numbers were around 10K, 15K. That's all the news articles said. Now, when you see his interviews, I believe it was a CNBC interview, he said 500K ETH. So pretty significant jump, but definitely an interesting ecosystem to keep out on, which is Bitminer and even Sharplink Gaming.
Gotta give a shout out to Brad, who's not with us today, but I asked him on a show that I hosted just with him. We were talking exactly about this topic, Rahim, Bitmine versus SBET, especially when it comes to the stock price. That picture becomes more clear on the last 5 days, Bitmine being up 90%, SBET only, quote unquote, being up 16%. And Brad said Wall Street probably is only going to pick one winner, and his bet would be on Bitmine, Tom Lee being obviously the main carol driving this insane price action narrative. And for the moment, exactly that seems to be the case, that is which is playing out.
Fair enough. Like it. Excellent summary, Rahim, and like good context of the rest of what's going on on ETH. One thing I had to note was Funky's laughter emojis. If you want to Google the difference between Tom Lee, Rahim, we've made this mistake before on the show. It's Tommy Lee is a different person. Tommy, maybe he's affectionately known as Tommy Lee now. Maybe he is now Tommy Lee, but we want to distinguish. We've got Tom Lee is the chairman of Bitmine. Tommy Lee, you can Google if you're too young to know who that was.
Tom Lee listened to the show because his profile still says Tom Lee, not drummer.
He's making the distinction himself. I think you should just continue. Tommy Lee is like his nickname for us now. We like it. Okay, final headline that I want to get into today before we get to our first Yeet giveaway. It'll be up to $500 for one of the participants on our Modern Market Ref link, which is in the comments if you want to participate moving forward. This is going to be every week. You don't need to rush to it now, but we will do this again next week. But final headline before we get there is this news that Tyler very nicely summarized actually of all of these treasury company announcements. The first one was $1.5 billion for a World Liberty Fi treasury. The second one was a $360 million IP treasury from Cask, IP being the native token for Story Protocol. Then you had a $25 million bonk treasury from Safety Shot, which is actually kind of a bit of a stranger arrangement where the founding contributors are going to be sending over $25 million worth of the token to like kind of kick off the treasury strategy. The commentary here was from Tyler was that, we're rapidly moving down the risk curve for these treasury strategies. This is obviously no longer Bitcoin and ETH. We've already known that for a while. Yano, founder of Blockworks, had this to say on the Story deal. He said, one, this is A16Z's first one. A16Z, obviously very prominent tech crypto investors getting involved in this game. And just generally saying that, look, he said here, we officially entered stage 3 of DATs. And this does not fill me with huge amounts of confidence when you start to see this kind of stuff. That's my instinct. I do think it's kind of propping up a bunch of tokens that there probably wasn't that much huge demand for anyway. And I think we need to do the thinking a bit deeper as to like what the specific consequences for those are. Maybe these would be profitable for the investors who are funding them. I wouldn't necessarily like being in them just as a kind of native token holder. So that's my initial thought. Ledge, do you have a quick? Oh no, Rahim, you said that you had something to say on the treasury stuff. Why don't you give us a quick take before we hit the giveaway?
Oh no, go for it. I was just saying that we have a lot of treasury talk about, so I skipped over it.
Ledge?
It's something I continue to watch. Like, yes, it's getting more ridiculous, 25M bonk treasury, but the size is also not relevant to make me scared that this is gonna lead to any sort of collapse. But if we'll see ridiculous numbers for ridiculous coins, that is probably a very good sign to be worried about a potential top.
Indeed. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, it's something which is very, very, it's accelerating. Let's put it like that. It's very much accelerating at the moment. There are all kinds of teams and tokens that are getting packaged up into these vehicles. And a lot of investors are piling in there. My longer thesis has been VCs were not allowed to make money on tokens anymore. So now this is the way they're going to try to sell and create profit by buying the shares of these companies and selling them higher on a very short time frame. I've heard as short as 3 to 6 months for lockups on this. So I definitely want to keep an eye on that if you are playing that game. So those are the main headlines today. We are delighted to move on to, as we said, we've got the Yeet giveaway today. It is time for that. Just a reminder, the Yeet platform. This is, Mando came on the show last week. He's one of the founders, also founders KBM and pro poker player Ben Lamb. They've done almost $400 million of volume, of casino volume in the last 3 months. We're users of the site. Legendary is famously known as Limbo GCR over there. So let's get to our giveaway. The way it will work is we will pick one person from our board that you can see now. Legendary is sharing that above. Obviously, we said it's the first week. Not many people have done some volume yet. So $500 or up to $500, depending on the outcome, will go to one of a very small group of people, which is pretty great odds of winning. It will be $250 in cash to a Yeet account, which we will send after the show, and $250 in free spins, which we will do now. We have selected at random our first winner already, and it is Kusho. Congratulations to him, long-time listener of the show, one of our earliest supporters, jumping into the casino yesterday. Very, very instinctively, great instincts. Legendary, how are you going to do the free spin portions for Kusho now?
Absolutely. Let me head over to Yeet. Unsurprisingly, to my favorite game, Limbo, the only game that I'm playing as Limbo GCR. So the way we're going to do it, we're not going to go for like crazy 100, 1000x multipliers. We're going to do 5 spins with $50 each. We're going to go for a simple 2x. So basically for the coin flip situation here, going to do that 5 times and see how much Kusho will get on top of the 250, which he will get either way sent to his Yeet account after the show. Starting
Fingers crossed for you, Kusho. Fingers crossed for you.
with the first spin. Nope.
No.
Second
Go on.
one. Ooh.
Come on.
Third one.
No way.
There we go.
There we go. Got some green.
So that's one. That is 50 times 2, 100 on top of his 250. That's going to be 350 for Kusho to be sent to him after the show.
Okay. Wait, was that 5? I thought I saw 4.
That was 5, I think. I mean, you can do one more.
No, I think you did 4. I think there's one more.
Really?
There's one more then.
Oh, see? There we go. That's
there
there we go. That's 450 for Kusho.
We risked it. We risked it. I don't know if it was 4 or 5 to be honest, but we took the risk for you, Kusho. So that's an extra. So what's that going to be, Ledge? That's going to be
450.
450.
Yeah.
There we go.
He hit twice. 50 times 2, 100. That he hit twice, 200 on top of his 250. It's 450. That's
Beautiful.
Nice. It's a beautiful win.
Kusho, you're in the Telegram already. So what you need to do is just send us your Yeet username, and we'll sort you out after the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks to Yeet for sponsoring and helping us out there, supporting our community. Get involved, and remember, Ledge, what do they need to do if they want to get involved further?
Yes, and we have exactly that question in the YouTube comments. DJ Zoe is asking, is it too late to join? No, it is not too late. The thing that you need to do is to sign up to Yeet using the Modern Market referral link. We have that in the comments on X. We have that in our Telegram. Also, to the question how to join the Telegram, just send us a DM on the Modern Market or to Legendary, and I'll get you sorted. Still going through all the invites. We also have the ref link on the show on YouTube, on the uploads on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So just sign up with that link, play whichever games you're comfortable to play. Obviously, do that in a responsible way. And if you do so, you will show up on this Yeet board. And all you need to do is to show up on the Yeet board, have a volume that is just higher than 0. So do a couple dollars, and you are eligible for the giveaway, for the raffle for the giveaway, which we will do again next week.
Well, it's going to go week to week. So I think the leaderboard resets. So you can't just do like $1 today and then think you're going to be eligible forever, right? You gotta participate. You gotta do what you're comfortable with over a period of time. So that's how it works. That's the first week of it. Shout out to Yeet for sponsoring today's show. Looking forward to the rest of our partnership over multiple months. So we'll continue to share information and how the giveaway will be executed in time. Guys, thanks so much for joining. As always, Legendary, thanks for co-hosting. Rahim, thanks for co-hosting. Funky, thanks for your contributions. As always, up top, we will be back again, same time, same place tomorrow, live on X, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify too. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.